안녕하세요, 여러분. 오늘은 특별한 손님 두 분을 모시고 이야기를 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 멀리 미국에서 와주신 메리와 데이나인데요. 자, 인사를 직접 한번 듣고 시작하겠습니다.
Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting our studio. Really, really nice to meet you guys finally. So first of all, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Dana Schlafman, and I'm from the United States.
Mhm.
And I'm just happy to be here. Thank you so much.
And I'm Mary Schlafman, and I'm also from the United States. And thank you so much for taking the time out today to meet with us.
Sure.
네. 오늘 이렇게 특별하게 모신 두 분은 해외 입양인이세요. 1972년생이시고요. 한 분은 성남에서 발견된 분이고 한 분은 미아리에서 발견된 분인데 두 분 다 멋지게 또 미국에서 자신의 삶을 열심히 살고 계시다가 한국에 방문하셨어요. 소통하는 시간을 가져보도록 하겠습니다.
I know you guys have been to Korea several times already. But what was your visit this time? Mary, you go first.
This is the first time we're coming back to Korea as a couple.
Uh-huh.
And we thought it would be significant as well to kind of go back to the place where we were, where our last known address was in Korea, before we were adopted to the United States, and to do that together.
요번에 두 분이 커플로서 같이 오신 건 처음이고 그리고 이제 본인들이 마지막으로 입양되기 전에 발견됐던 그 출생지에 직접 둘이 같이 가보는 게 굉장히 특별한 경험일 것 같아서 두 분이 같이 오셨다고 그러네요.
네.
The people who watch this show later, would you tell me more about the detail about you guys? Where were you come from originally? And then where were you founded? And then how come you guys adapted to the state at the time? Do you have for your information or details about it?
So my paperwork says that I was found here in Seongnam on March 27th, 1972. And if my research serves me correctly, that was actually a Monday morning. The paperwork says I was found around 6 o'clock in the morning on the street. That same day, I was taken to the adoption agency and put into the International Adoption Program. So from there, a family was selected for me in the United States. And in August of 1972, I flew to the United States to become a United States citizen and join my adoptive family.
그러면 it must be it all happened in 5 months?
It happened very quickly. So one of the purposes for me being here too is to try to understand that time frame. It was a very short timeline. One of my concerns is that if I was a missing child, there wasn't time for anyone to find me. That I was moved from the Seongnam area right to Seoul and put into the adoption program.
Oh, I see. 메리 그때 당시에 저희 이제 한국이 굉장히 어려운 상황이었겠지만 사실 메리가 말 안 해도 저희도 약간 추측해 볼 수 있는 게 이 어답션이 정말 공식적으로 제대로 된 어답션이냐 그때 당시 굉장히 어려운 상황 속에서 버려지거나 잃어버려진 아이들을 미국으로 입양 보내기까지 그 절차가 합법적이고 그리고 정말 제대로 된 입양이었는가에 대해서 지금 의문을 가지고 계신 게 너무 당연한 것 같아요.
네, 발견된 날짜에서 입양이 결정된 날짜까지 걸린 시간이 매우 짧은 거죠.
네, 겨우 5개월 만에 그리고 발견된 게 1972년 3월인데 지금 어떤 서류에 이렇게 사진에 보면은 71년 1월 1일이라고 돼 있는 거 보면 그때 발견될 당시에 그 아이의 사이즈를 보고 한 돌쯤 지났겠다 해서 그렇게 추측해서 그 다큐멘트에 써놓은 것 같아요. 그러면 이 이름도 그럴까요? How about your Korean name?
Korean
Do you
name?
think?
He.
Yeah. Do you think it's named from your parents you never met?
I
or
don't know. So
Right. Mm-hmm.
the name on my adoption papers, 전경희, and also my birth date, January 1st, 1971. I'm uncertain that those are actually the correct information. So it may not be right. And I may be older, I may be younger.
You look young.
Yeah.
I feel young.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Dana?
Yeah, thanks. If I remember my paperwork correctly, I was found in November of 1974, and went from the Miari police station to the children's baby hospital. And I was there for about a month and a half, and then I think moved to Holt. And then in May of 1975, was adopted to the U.S. with my adoptive family. The paperwork, my Korean name is Kim Jung-kyung. And, I think much like Mary's story, I'm not sure if my birthday, which is July 28th, 1971, and my name, I'm not sure if those are accurate. My adoptive parents told me that, what they were told was that information was made up, right? And so, kind of grew up thinking that, my birthday wasn't exactly right, or my name wasn't exactly right, but that's the only information we had.
But seems like it also takes about 5 to 6 months since you were founded and
Yeah.
then being adopted, right?
Yeah, I believe I was in a foster home for about that most of that time once I was moved over to Holt at the in the end of December.
Yeah, Holt was at that time it was the biggest adoption agency in Korea, I believe.
Yep.
네, 두 분이 지금 이제 얘기하시는 거에 가장 초점은 그런 거죠. 본인들이 그 서류에 의해서만 봤을 때 그 이름이 진짜인지 아닌지 알 수 없는 거고, 그것은 그 입양 기관에서 지어졌을 확률이 높은 이름이나 생일일 것이다라고 하기 때문에 본인의 그 진짜를 좀 알고 싶고 그런 게 두 분의 바람인 것 같아요.
Yeah. Then all the information that you think is not accurate, how do you feel?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's part of our story.
Yeah.
It's our history. That's all we know. I think for me, at least, there aren't a lot of feelings associated with it until I come back to Korea. And when I come back to Korea and I start experiencing the culture again, and today, and the generosity of others who brought us back to Seongnam, to the market, and to see the faces that reflect my own face, then I start the feelings, and I want to know more about myself, and I want to know my birthday, and I want to know my real name, and I want to know the history behind why the name that was given to me was chosen. So I do. There's a longing there that I'm hoping that I can find some answers for.
그렇고 메리에 대해서 제가 추가로 이야기를 하자면 메리의 생일이 71년 뭐 이쯤인 거잖아요. 근데 그때가 성남이 광주 대단지 사건이 일어났던 그 시점이에요. 그렇다면 그때 성남이 이제 매우 가난했고 그때 그쪽 단대리 지역 쪽은 이미 굉장히 밀집해 있었고 어려웠던 게 맞기는 맞거든요. 근데 그 상황에서 어떤 과정으로 입양이 되었을지는 이제 잘 모르겠는
그렇죠.
거고.
네. 우리 아시는지 모르겠지만 저희도 비슷한 그 에라에 태어난 사람으로서 사실 end of 60s, you guys, end of 60s and 70s after the Korean War, and then I think the country itself, Korea, is more like trying to rebuild everything. They are focused on the rebuild and the circumstance, and then this city rehabilitation or rebuild everything, but that focus on the people in the country, because they don't have enough like source or enough at that time, I think. So in those kind of situation, people were abandoned in many different way, I think. 지금 저기
Maybe
단장님이 얘기하신 것처럼 those places like 성남시 where you found it and the 미아리 where you found it is like a place where the most population was growing because after the Korean War people are like gathering to like a city in Seoul because there's Seoul is only they can have at least a job.
Right.
So, but Seoul itself cannot include like they can like serve all many people. So I kind of grew up near place like where you found it. In my memory, I think when I was little, we have this very old playground. And then around the playground, there's a big road where like a new development, like between new town and then the town, like it was just a field. And then 단장님이 아까 옛날 우리식의 약간 판잣집 같은 like shack. It's not a proper house, like a shack, like a shanty town, where is no like public water or sewer. But still many people in those tents and the shacks, I remember. And then there's a lot of kids there. And then we get to play sometimes in the same playground. And then they were not, there was no parents because their parents were too busy to go for work, go find something. And then kids were like abandoned like during the daytime. And I remember those times. And then 성남시, I never been to 성남시 at those time, but it's the same like area. Very hard living condition, very poor people. So the government policy never like reach it for those people. So like adoption agency has like own power, and then they do everything without any like political like permission or anything, I think. So, but I can give you like your name 경희 is we have one girl at least named 경희 in our school time. Yeah, it's those name from those period.
Common name.
Yeah, common name. No, it's pretty name.
전경희라서 저는
Yeah, last name is from the family, so it
So
must be
좀
accurate.
네. 김, 박, 이는 평범이 많지만 전경희는 좀 사실 없어서
네.
저는 사실 이름을 듣고 혹시 그래도 이게
Real
이름이
name.
있어서 이게 혹시 부모님이 의뢰했지만 그쪽에서는 그냥 유기된 아동이라고 했을 수도 있지 않을까 하는 생각도 했어요. 그냥 저는
Yeah. John is
그냥-
not very like a popular name in Korea, last name, so it might be really
could
accurate.
be.
And then we don't know about it, but and then also 준경 Kim.
네.
Kim is very like a common last name, but 준경 is kind of is very
unique.
unique.
네.
first name. So I thought it was given from somebody.
그것은 우리들의 개인적인
Yeah,
생각이에요.
개인적이지만, yeah,
네,
it's
그냥 우리
our private opinion, but it feels
네,
like
네,
But we appreciate that because that's more information than we have.
네.
So I think that's one of the things that we found as we learn more from the Korean people and the stories, and to meet people who grew up where we were found. It helps us to understand something that we didn't have information on before. So we appreciate it.
네. 그래서 매우 안타깝고 그 정경희 씨는 지금 그 미엔 코리아라고 그렇게 해외 입양인들을 이렇게 여행 오는 그런 단체에서 일을도 하고 계세요. 그거에 대해서도 간단하게 물어봐 주면 좋아요.
you volunteered
Yes.
for Mian Korea, the
Yes.
organization, and what do you do in there?
So I am a member, like you said, a volunteer for Me in Korea. We're an organization that's in the United States, but we reach out to adoptees worldwide to offer them opportunities to come back to Korea.
Okay.
And same thing, learn about their culture. We research birth families to see if we can find any history on them. our goal was to kind of break down those barriers for adoptees to come back to Korea. One of the fears that I think a lot of adoptees has is coming back because they don't understand the language.
I
So that language barrier is huge. So when we bring adoptees back, we provide translators, and then just to travel as a group of people with a common story, provide some security, and I think gives them the courage they need, or at least offers them a piece to help with the courage they need. Because I think as adoptees, it takes courage for us to come back here,
sure.
to a strange land that we don't know anything about.
무슨 말씀인지 한번.
네, 미앤 코리아라는 걸 통해서 거기서 이제 자원봉사하고 계신데 해외에 계신 이제 한국을 한 번도 방문하지 않았거나 방문하고 싶었던 이제 해외 입양아들이 이곳으로 오는데 이제 많은 어려움이 있잖아요. 그래서 그거를 이제 지원을 하는데 또 경제적인 거, 그다음에 언어적인 게 가장 크고요. 그런 부분이 안 돼서 사실 다시 돌아가는 분들도 되게 많다고 합니다. 그러니까 언어적인 거, 그다음에 문화적인 이해 이를 돕도록 그런 이제 방문지 같은 거 그런 프로그램을 짤 때도 그런 거를 이제 염두에 두시고 하는 굉장히 좋은 그 의미 있는 기관에서 일을 하시는 것 같아요. 네.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about, I think me in Korea specifically, but other adoptee tours, what they try to do is they try to bring the adoptee back to, they call it a meaningful place. For me, I was found in the Miari, and just going to a place where your history was first established, and frankly, looking in the faces of some of the older people and kind of wondering if you were in that area, that means something. That's significant. Where previously you didn't have any kind of experience like that or any memory. So I think what Me in Korea does, I think what some of these other adoptee groups do is really good, and having that meaningful experience is valuable.
Yes. 그러니까 직접적인 자기의 이제 버려진 장소, 입양되기 전에 발견됐던 그런 장소에 가서 직접적인 내가 뭐를 찾지 않더라도 그냥 그 시대에 그곳에 있는 어떤 사람들의 그 인물을 떠올려 보거나 이웃을 보거나 그 장소만 가는 것만으로도 자신한테 굉장히 가치가 있고 굉장히 특별한 경험이라는 걸 얘기하시는 것 같아요.
네.
그러실 수 있을 것 같아요.
그럴 것 같아요.
Your background, more details about you, when you found it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have much more information than what I shared. I remember from some of my paperwork, right? It was November. I want to say it was December 24th. I was transferred over to Holt from the CBH, the Children Baby Hospital,
City
Baby Hospital. The whole.
서울시립아동병원.
But outside of that, I have some information about my experience at maybe City Baby Hospital or Holt, as far as some things that I ate and did there, but I don't have any real information prior to that, and I don't have any memories of being
because you're
prior to being adopted. Yeah.
그 발견돼서 그 어린이 병원에서 홀트 아동복지까지 넘겨가고 입양되는 순간까지 그런 기록만 있을 뿐 거기에 대한 걸 어떤 걸
자세한
기억하고
기록은 남아있지
있지는
않죠.
네,
기억도 없고.
그렇습니다.
네.
너무너무 안타깝네요. 네.
사실 두 분이 오늘 저기 수정 경찰서에 가서 DNA 검사를 하고 왔어요. 유전자 검사 그런 걸 이제 유전자 실종 아동을 찾기 위한 실종 가족을 찾기 위한 유전자 검사 제도가 경찰에 있거든요. 그래서 두 분이 가서 오늘 채취를 했고 그런데 두 분 이렇게 입양인들은 DNA 검사를 많이 하지만 한국에 있는 가족들은 하지 않기 때문에 찾기 매칭이 어려운 거거든요. 그래서 그런 거에 대해서는 어떻게 생각하는지.
Yeah, I heard that you guys are visiting several places in Seongnam City this morning. Must be very, and they take some DNA test, right? But you guys wonder, what if the people in Korea, they ever try to find their like a history before, and then because there's a people who are looking for the parents, and then how about the other people? Yeah,
So
that's the problem, right?
yeah, and I do believe that there are parents here in Korea wondering what happened to their children. I understand the social barriers that prevents some of those parents from moving forward to find their children. I understand the stigma, and I think it would take a lot of courage on their side as well to come forward, to let others know that they have a child that they're looking for, an adult now that they're looking for. And we understand that, and I think it still causes some concern even on our side that we don't have the ability to break those barriers down for them.
Sure.
You know, I think Korea as a society has to help them do that. And I would hope that there are parents out there who are longing to find their children who are able to. And for that, we look to the adoption agencies for transparency. We look to the friends in the community, you know, to help those parents as well. And I think my hope would be that we can start to bridge that gap between the children who left Korea to be raised somewhere else and the parents that perhaps had to let them go for whatever reason, that we can start bridging that gap between the two.
지금 사실 그 해외 입양아분들은 한국에 와서 부모를 찾기 위해서 이제 DNA 테스트도 하고 뭐 여러 가지도 하시지만 실제로 한국에서 아이를 잃어버리거나 아이를 찾고자 하는 혹시나 해서 자기네들이 이쪽에서 또 찾는 그룹이 있어야 되잖아요. 그런데 그런 부분에 대해서는 우리 이제 일반인들이나 이게 우리가 더 이상 그렇게 우리
관심을 안
힘으로는 할 수 없는 그런 부분에 대해서 개선돼야 되는 게 너무너무 많은 것 같고 그런 게 좀 안타깝다.
네.
그러나 이 잃어버린 그 입양 아들,
요새 입양인으로
입양인, 입양인들과 동시에 또 그때 입양을 보냈을 분이 없었던 그 부모들이나 그 부모를 그런 상황에 처했었던 그 분들의 정보나 그분들의 접근은 그 사람들은 누구를 통해서 해야 되는가 이런 게 정말 우리에게 숙제같이 남는 질문이네요. 네.
네.
I think too, right? You know, you don't necessarily have to be a biological parent, right? You know that there's cousins, there's children, there's you know, there's people who have found birth families not directly by the parent. So just really the more DNA that is out there, the more opportunity for a match, the more people can find.
Yeah, and I think to Dana's point, the younger generation, the children of the children, so grandchildren are, you know, trying to find pieces of their family that were missing too. And this generation that's growing up now is more accepting of the differences, where I think previously there was a generation living in shame because of the war and because of the life they lived after the war. So there's healing. There's a healing process that needs to take place for everyone.
그렇죠. 그 이제 벌써 세월이 많이 가서 그 전 세대뿐 아니더라도 요즘 같이 이제 우리가 이제 이렇게 기술이 발달한 시대에서 또 요즘 제너레이션은 지금 메리 씨가 말씀하시는 거는 조금 더 열려 있고 조금 더 우리가 저지른 그 과거의 어떤 과오를 우리 힘으로 우리 이런 기술로 어떻게 좀 할 수 있다면 그런 거에 약간 희망을 걸어보는 거죠. 그러니까 직접 가족은 아니더라도 그 이제 그 자녀의 자녀 뭐 사촌의 뭐 이렇게 제너레이션을 내려오고 많은 DNA들이 서로 오픈하고 공유가 된다면 서로 연결점을 예전보다는 이렇게 찾기를 바란다고 말씀하시는 것 같아요.
네.
네.
사실 우리는 이렇게 지금 해외 입양인이라는 이렇게 와서 우리가 좀 특별하게 보지만 그냥 지금 미국에서 또 사셨기 때문에 정체성은 미국인으로 또 갖고 계시잖아요. 외모는 한국인이고 정체성은 미국인이고 그런 부분에서 어려움은 없는지 또는 뭐 어떤 자라면서 어떤 힘든 점이 있었거나 아니면 또 그래도 입양해서 좋은 점이 있었는지 그런 것도 궁금해요.
You guys may have like a difficulty during, you know, growing up in the States. So like an Asian, you know, I'm talking about your identity crisis. How was it? Must be very hard, but yeah.
Well, you know, I think for me, right, you know, there's certainly challenges growing up. I'm not sure I had an identity crisis until maybe later in life, but, you know, I think I'll speak for myself. I was adopted into a Caucasian family. And so, you know, I think children again, I'll speak for myself. I identified with my Caucasian family, right? With my white family, which I think is natural. And for most of us, I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly, white, and so I didn't really understand, right, identity crisis, but I also had this challenge of frankly not wanting to look like how I looked, just because that's not what I was used to or what was around me, and frankly that's not how I felt inside. And so that was a challenge. It's not kind of easy, and frankly didn't embrace really being Korean until 2013 when I went back for the first time as an adult. I mean, 1975 is when I left. 2013 was the first time I went back. Yeah.
그러니까 자라면서는 이제 전형적인 백인 패밀리의 그런 네이버후드 이웃에서 자라면서 사실은 한국을 방문하기 전까지 자기가 자라면서 어떤 그런 그 유색인종 좀 다른 저들과 다르다는 그런 도전을 조금 받기는 했지만 그 삶이 있겠지만 특별히 나의 정체성에 대해 내가 미국인이 아니라는 그런 정체성을 가진 적은 없지만 오히려 정말 다 이제 어른이 돼서 2015년에 한국에 처음 방문했을 때 그거에 대해서 좀 진지하게 생각해 보게 됐다고 하네요. 그래도 조금 행운이셨던 것 같아요. 왜냐하면 그 이웃과 그 사회에서
좋은
잘
이웃과 좋은 사회를
받아들여져서
만나서, 네.
본인의 어려움 없이 그렇게 그때까지 성장하실 수 있었던 거니까요. 네.
메리는 어떻게?
Oh gosh. Well, I think unfortunately we don't live in a world where being different is a good quality. And, Dana did grow up with a sister who was also adopted from Korea. And I do remember I have a friend whose siblings were adopted from Korea, and she is not Korean herself. But I remember her telling me that at her dinner table, she looked across the table and she saw Korean faces. So that's what caused her to kind of become more curious about Korea. For myself, I was adopted into an all-white family. So when I looked at my dinner table, everybody sitting across from me didn't look anything like me. I don't feel it was celebrated. I think I grew up in a very small community. So the fact that I'll back it up a little bit. The fact that I was different was celebrated. It was in the local news. It was, in the front page of the newspaper. People knew who I was. So there was this elevation of adoption that I don't think I understood at the time. What I did understand, and I shared this at lunch today, was that people would ask me where I was from, and I would say Korea, and nobody knew where Korea was.
Okay.
In the 70s or 80s.
yeah.
So it made me feel very invisible. You don't know who I am. You don't know where I'm from. And I think that part of me that decided to embrace Korea, because I really think it's a conscious choice as an adoptee to take that step forward, to recognize that I came from somewhere else, that I had different beginnings. And either I can say I'm American, because that's what my passport says, that's where my citizenship is, or I can go, wait a minute, I have another part of me that I need to discover. And so it took a while for me to do that as well. I just wanted to blend in. They talk about wallflowers. We don't want to be seen. But I think as I learn more and more about Korea and the culture, I'm starting to find my own voice, not only for myself to figure out that piece of me, but to advocate for the other people who haven't had the opportunity to do so.
Well, and I think one thing that, we were starting to talk a little bit about identity. I always knew I was from Korea. I didn't feel Korean until I went back. Until, you walk down the city streets and you see only Korean faces, only Asian faces. And so, big difference between knowing you're from someplace and feeling like you're
I
from
see.
someplace.
And I think that all comes in time. Because even though we're married, I think our journey is a little bit different too. I mean, Dana definitely feels more Korean. I'm still trying to figure that one out. So I'm getting closer.
네, 어렸을 때 정말 그 이제 좋은 가정에 입양되면 그런 거 없이 하지만 메리 얘기를 들어보니까 굉장히 이제 프라이빗하고 스몰 타운 출신이고 그래서 입양하라는 걸 사람들이 다 알고 로컬 페이퍼에 날 정도로 그때 이제 입양을 약간 좀 권장하는 사회였기
그렇죠.
때문에 자기를 약간 그런 홍보
네.
그런 걸로 쓰이고 그러면 이제 사람들이 자기한테 자연스럽게 이제 넌 어디서 왔냐? 그러면
많이 물어볼
본인이
수 있게.
이제 한국에서 왔다고는 얘기하지만 지금
한국이
미스터
어딘지
데이나가
모르고.
얘기하실
네.
때 내가 한국의 사람이라고 얘기하는 거랑 내가 한국 사람처럼 느껴지는 거에는 정말 큰 차이가 있다. 그런데 이제 이렇게 짧게나마 한국을 비슷하고 이렇게 이런 우리를 만나고 이런 과정에서 자기가 한국인임을 좀 느끼게 된다는 거. 그런 게 굉장히
네.
사실은 의미 있는 것 같습니다.
에 비해서는 한국의 위상이
야.
좀 좋아졌잖아요. 그래서 본인들이 느끼는 한국에 대한 감정이 좀 달라졌는지.
네. How do you feel like about recently like K-pop, K-culture is all of a sudden everybody knows Korea. We're Korea.
It's very interesting, actually, for somebody who grew up and nobody even knew, geographically where Korea was. I think to see, K-pop and the K-dramas, I can turn my TV on and listen to the Korean language and watch a story. And again, not growing up with any of that. And I think when you're, especially going through your teenage years, you're trying to find someone or something to look up to. I mean, as a girl, makeup. Right? Our eyes are different. I couldn't do my eyes the same way my friends in high school did, so I just stayed away from all of that because I looked funny. So I think for me, it is one of those things that I'm very curious about. If that was accessible to me growing up in the 70s and 80s, would I have more confidence in being Korean instead of trying to look like my other friends? So if I couldn't do it to my eyes, I would do it to my hair. If I couldn't wear, certain, I would wear the clothes. So I think we all want to belong somewhere. And I think that's part of the journey of being an adoptee is we do want to belong back to Korea. And we can only do that if the people of Korea embrace us as well.
예.
I think it's really it's an amazing, it's a celebrated thing that K-pop's really popular in K-dramas. And again, kind of I think going back to that identity thing, there's this I think for some people that's really cool for Korea, which is a little bit different and that's part of my culture. That's part of my heritage and understanding and feeling a part of it versus just something that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know.
There's big differences. There's a gap. And then that will make you a lot, sometimes difficult to understand.
Well, I think like Mary was talking about it, I feel, that I recognize that, or I feel like that's part of me, maybe more than she does. But I think for me, there's still a barrier as far as language, right? I can't speak the language. Sometimes we'll walk into a store and I'll say hello in Korean, and then they say a whole bunch of other things after there, and I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel good, right? It doesn't feel like I'm part of it. So still a little bit in a middle area, right? Not really embraced as American, even though that's the name on my passport. And I can't speak the language here, so somewhere in the awkward middle.
Yeah, but I think it took so long, but it's better than never.
Agree.
Right?
I think, and sorry, and I would agree with you. For me, I think for us, there are some adoptees who never will get there, and I think that can be okay for them. I think on my own personal journey, that would have been unfortunate, right? That would not have been good for me, but Prior to even coming back, it wasn't something I thought about. It wasn't something I was interested in. Mary mentioned that I had a sister, but that wasn't something that we recognized per se with each other. We kind of maybe pleasantly ignored it, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
it wasn't something that kind of tied us together in any meaningful way.
메리랑 또 조금 다르신데
네.
그래도 어쨌든 이런 한국이 요즘 이렇게 너무 알려져가지고 자기네들이 이제 직접 한국인이라는 어떤 프라우드한 마음은 있지만 사실
네.
자기네가 속한 그 한국에 대한
그럼요.
한국인의 자기가 어디서 왔다는 거랑 그다음에 사람들이 굉장히
그렇지.
대단하게 생각하는 그 한국인의 이미지 사이에는 이제 커다란 갭이 있고 특히 본인들은 이제 아직 언어나 이런 일상에 굉장히 이제 낯설기 때문에 그 간격이 좁아지기를 바랐지만
네.
실제로 이 데나님은 실제로 메리만큼 그렇게 이제 한국에 대해서 자기가 꼭 찾아야 된다. 나의 그런 크라이스를 약간 말하자면 약간
그래서 좀 다르시죠? 두
억누르고
분이? 네.
살짝 누르고
네.
있었는데 이제 이번
네.
기회에 이렇게 오게 됐다는 걸
네.
말씀하시는 것 같아요.
네, 아까 들어보니까 두 분이 한국어 공부도 좀 하신다고 들었어요. 어떤 거 하실 수 있는 거 있는지.
So, are you guys start learning how to speak Korean?
Dana can speak and understand more than I do.
I've taken some
really?
classes at the embassy in the United States, which was good. But it's one of those things you have to practice, you have to work at it, and it's hard. It's not easy. So
See, and I go to bed at night hoping that when I wake up in the morning, I can speak Korean.
Or dream Korean?
Right?
Or
Or dream
dream.
Korean. And you know what? Speaking of dreams, there was only one time that I did have a dream about Korea.
Oh, you did?
Before and I was fairly young, maybe elementary school. And the interesting part about that dream is it didn't have anything to do with a birth mother. It had to do with a birth father.
Oh.
And I think sometimes, and it just kind of popped in my head, a lot of times we talk about the birth mothers because obviously everybody has a birth mother. But I think there are birth fathers out there too who are looking for their children. And I don't want to forget about them as well. Because it takes courage for them to step forward as well to find their children.
어렸을 때 그
그럼
한국
보신 적이
아버지에
있다는
대해서
거죠? 근데 제가
대단해.
가능성도 있는 게 두 분 다 태어나자마자 입양 가는 케이스도 있는데 두 분 다 그렇지 않고 태어나고 어느 정도 기간이
있는 거
있다가
보니까.
가셨잖아요. 그러면 친생 가족과 지낸 기간이 있을 수 있으니까 무의식 중에 그런
그렇죠.
꿈을 꿀 수 있지 않을까?
네,
네, 그런 생각이 드네요.
네. 오늘 막 너무 할 말은 많지만
네, 저희가 너무 많은 질문을 했는지 한번 여쭤봐 주시고 하시고 싶은 이야기 좀 더.
Yeah, I think this broadcasting we will edit later and then send it to the broadcast like on YouTube. Do you have anything to say to anybody who are related? It might related with you or family. Would you leave like
you
a
can go
brief
first.
message? Yeah, it's like a short message on someone.
Yeah. I think this morning when we were walking.
there you go. A little extra
Extra light.
light.
화면이 너무 이렇게 안 될까요?
Heat.
괜찮아요? 여기 하면은 너무 어둡게 나와가지고 좀 되나?
Would you like me to do it?
될 것 같아요.
방이 너무
한 번만
좁죠.
돌려보고.
I sit on the plane and I travel across the globe to come back to Korea. And I think as we get closer to the ground and I start seeing the shape of the land, my heart starts thinking about where I came from. And I think my message would be that I'm not sure what I'm looking for. But if somebody remembers me, if somebody thinks they remember me, it may not be me, it may be somebody else that's looking for you. I would hope that in this lifetime, we have the opportunity to meet. I grew up with my parents telling me that, they didn't know who my family in Korea was, but that one day in heaven, I would meet them. So as a child, that was satisfying. That worked for me. I didn't know any different. And as an adult that is now being able to critically think about life, I realize that there are precious things in this lifetime that I don't want to miss. And so I would hope if you remember me, if you know me, if you know of me, to have the courage to step forward because I'm here and I'm waiting and I would love to meet you.
How about
You know, I think maybe similar to Mary, but I think what I'd want to tell somebody, my biological family, that I'm okay, right?
Aw.
You know, that life is good. I think I didn't really know that maybe the Korean part of me was missing until 2013. And at the same point in time, we were talking about it at lunch. We're not looking for something from them, right? We're not, looking to create problems per se. But, I think Mary's parents, her adoptive parents, died fairly young in her life. And one of the things that I'm learning that she's helped me understand is life is short, right? And there are things that we'd like to do in this lifetime. And if there's somebody who's older who is still, fearful, right, of coming forward or saying something, take a chance, right? Because, life is short and it would be unfortunate to never meet somebody because they're afraid. Because the other side is they're not able to reach out and now we never meet. I would like to know, right, what my real name is. Maybe it's accurate, maybe it's not. I'd like to know my birthday. I'd like to know something about my biological family. And I've got an adoptive mother. I've got a mom who she loves me very much, and I love her. And it's funny, and we talked a little bit about this at lunchtime. I think sometimes maybe people, we think that things have to be like black or white, and there's an or in the middle, right? And sometimes with adoptive families, if a child meets a biological family, it feels like something's getting taken away. And I truly believe it's an and kind of a thing where, frankly, at the end of the day, more love to a child is more, and you're not taking something away, but it's hard to sometimes think of it that way. And all I'm saying, and my point is that, hopefully it would be an addition to their lives and mine, not a subtraction from something else.
True. 너무
이렇게
지금
들려주셔서 너무 감사하네요,
감사하고요.
정말.
네.
네. 두 분의 이야기를
음.
저희가 사람들에게 많이 전달을 하고 싶은 이유가 이분들의 이런 솔직한 심정, 다른 이야기를 하시기도 하지만 같은 이야기도 한 거고,
맞습니다.
한국의 입양의 역사에 있어서는 어쨌든 문제점이 있는 거는 분명하고, 그래도 축복받은 인생이 되어서 즐겁게 사시는 분들에게 정말 박수를 보내드리고 싶고요. 정말로 좀 원하는 거를 이룰 수 있었으면 좋겠어요.
맞아요.
네.
네. 매번 이제 한국에 방문하시지만 어쩔 때는 돌아갈 때 이렇게 빈손으로 별로 그렇게 정확한 어떤 정보나 이런 걸 얻지 못하셨더라도
기관에서 모든 걸 받을 수도 없고 서류가
그래도
있어도
이렇게
미비하니까.
방문하는 것 자체 이 순간의
네.
의미가 저분들한테 정말
네.
큰 도움이 되고
네.
또 앞으로 좀 그거보다 더한 그
음.
희망을 좀
네.
보실 수 있도록 정말 큰
네.
그 응원이 됐으면 좋겠네요.
네.
네.
그리고 저 이제 한번 또 드리고 싶은 말씀이 처음에 저도 해외 입양인에 대한 인식과 지금 많이 달라진 점이 이분들이 어쩌면 이런 두 개의 문화를 이렇게 공유하는 가교가 될 수 있는 그런 특별한 위치에 있는 분들일 수도 있겠다는 생각을 많이 했어요.
맞습니다.
그래서 그런 것도 이야기 좀 꼭 전해주셨으면 좋겠어요.
네. Like being adopted, but from your story, you're like adopted, by someone. So you didn't decide that you couldn't do anything about the situation, and then you're growing up with that story, and then now finally you are here, and then we are thinking about the meaning of why you are here. And then Hyunyi said, 단장님 said, you guys are has a great role between adoptee and then Korean culture, like as a bridge, like a messenger, and that would be very, very, meaningful.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
hope so.
Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for
Sharing
having
your
us. Thank
story,
you for
yeah.
everything.
It was overwhelmed, but very happy to hear. And then it was very helpful to understand your situation, and then other overseas adoptees to understand them, and then we could find a way to help them more.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
오늘 이렇게 나와주셔서 너무 감사합니다.
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 WSMB 원더풀 성남